Tanny Cooks here, and today I'm going to show you how to make some delicious oven fried pork chops, and I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks to make this perfect dish. So we have pork chops, we have center cut and rib cut that are more fatty and perfect for this cooking method. Seasonings, we're going to use garlic powder, poultry seasoning, black pepper, onion powder, complete seasoning, and onion salt. To bread it, we're going to use all-purpose flour, panko breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese. So to start off with, I always wash my meat. As you hear me say in my meat videos, my chops and steaks always get a good wash. On pork chops, you can kind of feel a grainy bit on them. At least I can anyway, so I think it's important to wash, especially because I don't know what solution the store may have put on it or who handled it in the store. So I wash it and dry it off. And then I sanitize my hands and my sink and my counters, so no one I know has ever been sick with salmonella from washing their meat. Not to say it doesn't happen, I just don't know anybody that's happened to, so I continue to wash and dry my meat. So I am adding a couple of pieces of the pork chop to my bowl to season it, and I also have some of the pork chops on the other side of the bowl that you can't see. So I'm adding the seasoning in layers so every piece is well seasoned. We're also going to add these seasonings to the breading we make. So these are oven fried pork chops because they're going to be baked in the oven, but the coating on them is going to give you the texture of it being fried. So to start off with, we're going to season and then add mustard to our pork chops. Mustard, of course, will add a delicious flavor. It won't taste like mustard, but it'll be a nice ting to it. And then mustard contains vinegar. So the vinegar is a natural meat tenderizer. So I like that for several reasons, the mustard. You can actually do this step the night before or at least an hour or two before actually cooking it. So this is what our pork chops will look like when we have them all seasoned and covered with the mustard. I'm just giving it a good rub to make sure the mustard is fully incorporated. And then I'm adding more complete seasoning to make sure it is well seasoned and tasty. So to make our breading, I'm starting off with panko breadcrumbs. And I'm not measuring this, so the proportion I'm using is about 1 cup of breadcrumbs to 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. So you can just eyeball it. This is the Parmesan cheese that is grated that you find on the shelves in your grocery store, not in the refrigerator section. And I'm also using all-purpose flour, so I'm going to use about a cup of flour. Each one of my measuring spoons is 1/2 cup. But you can play around with the proportions you like. I just didn't want to use too much Parmesan because I don't want these to burn in the oven. So we're just going to mix those 3 items together to get them well incorporated. And then next I'm going to crack my eggs. So even though there's mustard on our pork chops, I probably could just dip the mustard pork chops into the breading, but I want to be extra sure that the breading sticks as much as possible to the chops when cooking. So that's why I'm going to use the egg. So at this step, I'm going to season my flour as well as season my egg. And I use all of my seasonings liberally except for salt. I do try to use as little salt as possible because some of the seasoning blends that I use already contain salt, so there's no reason to overdo it. At the end of cooking, if the meat doesn't taste like it has enough salt, then I add more then. So here I'm just blending in my seasonings, and then I'm going to do the same with the egg. Give that a nice stir. So I have this rack that I'm going to use after I dip my pork chop in the egg. Then I'm going to dip it into our breadcrumb mixture and then sit it on a rack to rest for a couple of minutes as I complete the rest of the pork chops and let them rest a bit before I actually cook them in the oven. You want to be sure to press your breadcrumbs into the pork chop a couple of times and then shake it off to make sure that the coating is on there well. Look at how pretty they look, y'all. So I'm just going to finish off the rest of my pork chops. Using this method, I didn't find that I needed to dip it in the egg twice or dip it in the egg and then the flour and then back in the egg and back in the flour. I didn't need to do that. If you have a different method for breading your oven fried pork chops, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you do and how that works for you. I like learning different recipes from different people. So I have my pork chops on a foil on the left and on a rack on the right hand side. I want to try both to see how it comes out. I'm spraying the chops with cooking oil on the top and bottom of the pork chops to make sure they release nicely. I'm also using a silicone mat for the next batch of pork chops to see how this comes out. Now I added oil on here, and I read that you don't need oil on these silicone mats, but I have trust issues, so I wasn't completely sure if it would work, but I definitely think you can use less oil than what I have here. Or if you have a nonstick pan, then just skip the silicone mat and maybe just use this cooking spray on your pan. So you're gonna bake these at 425 degrees Fahrenheit until they're golden brown. It should take 10 to 15 minutes depending on the thickness of your chops. So check it halfway through to see how it's doing. Once they get to golden brown, you want to pull them out, and you want to make sure the internal temperature is at least 142 degrees when you take them out, and then let it rest for about 5 minutes, and the temperature rises as you let it rest. You could put a piece of foil loosely on top. Now look at that. I don't like the rack method. That didn't work at all. The foil was a little bit better, but you definitely want to use a spatula to make sure you scrape the bottom and get all of the breading off the bottom side and that it doesn't peel off. Either way, it's perfectly beautiful on top, and I did not flip these because I wanted to have one perfect side for sure. And look at how beautiful these are. If someone is eating this, they shouldn't be flipping over the pork chop anyway to see how the second side looks. But this is beautiful. It is golden. Y'all, it tastes amazing. The Parmesan, the mustard, all adds a nice kick. It is absolutely delicious. And if you eat pork chops, then you definitely want to try this method. Particularly if you usually fry yours in oil, try oven baking it to use a little bit less oil in your recipe. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel.